most of my adult life, as has Representative Katie Dempsey. David is part of a very large family that's been in our community for many generations. They have a history of service and community involvement that spans more than a century. The reason I didn't know David in high school, besides him being a few years younger than me, was that his father answered the call to military service during the early days of World War II and made a career of the Army. David's father was a highly decorated Army officer who stormed the Utah beach on D-Day and went on to serve in Korea and Vietnam. David is a military kid who went to 17 different schools before his family returned home to settle down. May explain some things. He graduated from West Rome High School in 1976 and shortly after graduation followed in his father's footsteps and joined the Army, serving in the 82nd Airborne from 1977 till 81. David, I've always wondered about people who willingly jump out of a perfectly good airplane. After service, David felt a call to Christian ministry and attended Covington Seminary, where he received his pastoral training. He went on to serve a number of smaller churches in the Floyd County area as a bivocational pastor until he found his true calling, which is that of chaplain to our law enforcement community. He has served as chaplain for the Floyd County Sheriff's Office for the past 34 years. He also serves our E911 personnel, our Metro Drug Task Force, and our SWAT teams. He's a member of our Critical Incident Stress Management team and teaches emotional survival for our law enforcement community. He is also a senior chaplain emeritus with the Georgia Sheriff's Association and was appointed by Governor Sonny Perdue as chaplain for the Homeland Security. And he also is a pastor to Essential Church, which is a church that ministers primarily to our law enforcement community. David is always there to give counsel and comfort when an officer is involved in an accident, a shooting, a high-speed pursuit, or a stressful incident that is part of the realities of law enforcement. On a personal note, David and particularly his daughter Amy were there for us when my wife and I lost our teenage daughter in an auto accident in her sophomore year of high school. You see, Amy and Rebecca were best friends from kindergarten onward. So right before the funeral, Amy asked me if she could sing a song, and in the midst of our grief, we knew she was hurting too. She sang a beautiful tribute to our daughter, "Friends Are Friends Forever." I did not know at that time how well she could sing, but Amy and her husband Josh now have a dynamic music ministry, and they are currently serving at First Baptist Brunswick, and I think you're watching online. Did I mention that service seems to run in this family? I had the unfortunate privilege, however, to return the love and comfort when David's older daughter, Ashley, was severely injured in an auto accident with a drunk driver and passed away some years later from complications caused by the accident. You see, David knows how to minister, and he knows what it's like to be ministered to. David is married to Teresa Thornton. They have 5 children and 13 grandchildren. Teresa and our Floyd County Sheriff, David Robertson, are here at the Capitol today accompanying David and watching online from my office. It is now my privilege to introduce our pastor for today, my friend, Chaplain David Thornton.
Thank you. It's a great honor to be here today in the House of Representatives. Thank you to the Speaker of the House, David Ralston from Blue Ridge. I have the honor of having a river house up in McKaysville, so I'm one of his good taxpayers along with that. Thank you. The Honorable Eddie Lumsden is a dear friend. One thing that Eddie mentioned, that our families crossed paths with his daughter when she passed, and Amy, my daughter, when we had our first, when I had our first grandchild. She was named Rebecca after Eddie's daughter, and she now attends Berry College as an electronic aeronautical engineer and going to Auburn afterwards. But thank you, Eddie. And to Miss Katie Dempsey, District 13, a true heart of a servant to our community, and I'm thankful for both of you. I'm thankful for the House of Representatives, the great state of Georgia. God be with you, lead you always. We are truly blessed by your leadership. Matthew 5:9 said, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God." The definition of blessed is invoke divine favor upon, asking God to look favorably on, or express or feel gratitude or thankful. A peacemaker is a person who brings about peace, especially by reconciling adversaries. The question is, what is your calling? And as Eddie told you, my calling is to be a chaplain that ministers to law enforcement, public safety, and to public servants. I also teach a class on emotional survival that I've shared in a lot of your counties, in 21 different counties, where we go in with our CISM teams and debrief and help out when officers are killed in the line of duty. There was 542 officer deaths nationwide last year, including 375 to COVID and nationally, and there was 110 deaths by gunfire or violent crime. Georgia had 49 officers that were killed in the line of duty. And then the tragic part is to add to all that total, we lost 171 deputies and officers to suicide. So you see that as the job I have as a chaplain that I take seriously. I travel many areas of the state and community to do that, because I believe in what the calling is when it said, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they should be called the children of God." George Washington had a motto that he said, "Deeds, not words." And I try to do that in my ministry and what we do in the community, and I'm sure you do here in the House of Representatives. Another thing that he mentioned, 3 things that prompt men to regularly discharge their duty in time of action: natural bravery, hope of reward, and third is fear of punishment. The blessed, the peacemakers, they're called the children of God. In Titus chapter 3, verse 1, my brother was one of the sheriffs that I served under for 5 sheriffs, and he had this hanging in his office, and they said, this is what you need to know to be a sheriff or be in public service. And it says in Titus chapter 3, reminds them to be subject to rulers, to authorities, to be obedient, to be ready for every good deed. We are blessed as peacemakers and called the children of God when we honor, pray, and lift up lawmakers to God each and every day. That is my duty as a Christian. That's my duty as a chaplain. That's my duty in law enforcement and one another, to pray for you to pray for me, and we pray for our country. Romans 13:1, another scripture that says, let every person be subject to governing authorities, for there's no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God. My closing thoughts are this: I need to pray for myself. I need to pray for my family. I need to pray for my community. I need to pray for the deputies and officers I serve. I need to pray for the House of Representatives of the great state of Georgia. I need to pray for our nation. I need to pray for unity of fellowship through Christ my Savior. Isaiah 41:10 says this. It said, fear not. He said, I am with you. Fear not, I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with the right hand of righteousness. So thank you to the Speaker of the House, David Ralston, my representative and friend Eddie Lumpston, and the representative and friend Katie Dempsey, to the House of Representatives. I pray God's strength, God's speed, and guidance to us all. And if you would, I'd have you join us in our prayer. As we pray, it says, God, we come before your throne of grace and mercy. We thank you for your Son and our Savior, Jesus Christ. We acknowledge you in every aspect of our life and our government throughout the history of our great state and nation. I pray with a heart of love and mercy for each representative in this legislative house. I pray for the Democrats, the Republicans, the men and women alike. Lord, we pray for the work and the people of the great state of Georgia. In praying, we ask for a hedge of protection for all our public servants, military, and all our frontline personnel. God, your grace is sufficient for every need. Praying for our governor, the Senate, the House of Representatives, and all the agencies that represent this great state. We thank you, Jesus, our Savior and Lord, and in his grace we say amen. Would you join me in the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, sir.
Doorkeepers will unlock the doors. Chair recognizes, before I go there, members may greet the chaplain in the South Anteroom. Chair recognizes the Chairman Hogan, the Chair of the Committee on Information and Audits.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Information and Audits has read the journal of the previous legislative day and found it to be correct. And furthermore, Mr. Speaker, we are reminded how short life really is and how we're just passing through. So all the people you haven't told that you love lately, tell them and live your days like you mean it.
Chairman Hogan, the Chair of the Committee on Information and Audits, reports that the journal of the previous legislative day has been read and found to be correct. Is there any objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none and the journal is confirmed. The clerk will read the resolution establishing the order of business for the day.
Mr. Burns, on 159th moves the following be established as the order of business under the first part of the period of unanimous consents. Introduction of bills and resolutions, first reading and reference of House bills and resolutions, second reading of bills and resolutions, reports of standing committees, third reading and passage of uncontested local bills and resolutions, first reading and reference of Senate bills and resolutions, morning orders.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolution establishing the order of business for the day? The chair hears none and the resolution is adopted. First reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 1375 by Representative Moore of the 95th, Wilson of the 80th, Oliver of the 82nd, Kendrick of the 93rd, Dreyer of the 59th, and others. Bill being titled Act to Amend Chapter 9 of Title 34 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to workers' compensation.
Industry and Labor.
House Bill 1376 by Representative Moore of the 95th, Cooper of the 43rd, Carpenter of the 4th, Rich of the 97th, Gullett of the 19th. Bill being titled Act to Amend Article 13 of Chapter 2 of Title 26 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to food service establishments.
Agriculture and Community Affairs.
House Bill 1377 by Representative Burchett of the 176th, Corbett of the 174th, Rhodes of the 120th, Smith of the 18th, Gunner of the 8th. Bill being titled Act to Amend Article 1 of Chapter 7 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to general provisions relative to income tax.
Judiciary.
House Bill 1378 by Representative Jaspers of the 11th, Powell of the 32nd, Ballinger of the 23rd, Ridley the 6th, Tarvin of the 2nd, and others. Bill being titled Act to Amend Part 3 of Article 4 of Chapter 11 of Title 16 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to carrying and possession of firearms.
Public Safety and Homeland Security.
House Bill 1379 by Representative Corbett of the 174th, Ridley the 6th, Burchett of the 176th, Hogan of the 179th, and Rhodes of the 120th. Bill being titled Act to Amend Title 35 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to law enforcement officers and agencies.
Motor Vehicles.
House Bill 1380 by Representative Corbett of the 174th, Houston of the 170th, Smith of the 133rd, Burchett of the 176th, and England of the 116th. Bill being titled Act to Amend Chapter 7 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to income
Ways
taxes.
and Means.
House Bill 1381 by Representative Stevens, 164th, England of the 116th, Corbett of the 174th, Watson of the 172nd, Jaspers of the 11th, and others. Bill being titled Act to Amend Chapter 80, Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to general provisions applicable to counties and municipal corporations.
Governmental Affairs.
House Bill 1382 by Representative Stevens, the 164th, England, and the 116th, Corbett of the 174th, Watson of the 172nd, Jaspers of the 11th, and others. Bill being titled Act to Amend Code Section 3662A 21 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to required training on development and redevelopment programs.
Governmental Affairs.
House Bill 1383 by Representative Walensky, the 79th, Abstration of the 104th, Oliver of the 82nd, Rich of the 97th, Holcomb of the 81st, and others. Bill being titled an Act to Amend Article 2, Chapter 19 and Title 45 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to the Fair Employment Practices Act of 1978.
Judiciary.
House Bill 1384 by Representative Jenkins, the 132nd, Camp of the 131st, Green of the 151st, Jaspers, the 11th, Knight of the 130th. Bill being titled an Act to Amend Code Section 8.2.23 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to amendment and revision of codes generally.
Agriculture and Consumer Affairs.
House Bill 1385 by Representative Anderson of the 10th, Taylor of the 173rd, Rich of the 97th, Gaines of the 117th, Lumsden of the 12th, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Chapter 36 and Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to annexation of territory.
Governmental Affairs.
House Bill 1386 by Representative Carson of the 46th, Smith of the 133rd, Corbett of the 174th, Seaball of the 34th, and Olowitz of the 42nd. Bill be titled an act to amend Chapter 8 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to sales and use taxes.
Ways and
House
Means.
Bill 1387 by Representative Collins of the 68th, Green of the 151st, Powell of the 32nd, Corbett of the 174th, Bonner of the 72nd. Bill be titled an act to amend Title 40 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to motor vehicles and traffic.
Motor Vehicles.
House Bill 1388 by Representative Burchett of the 176th, Corbett of the 174th, LaHood of the 175th, Watson of the 172nd, and Gullett of the 19th. Bill be titled an act to amend Code Section 913-142 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to requirements of an official legal organ.
Judiciary.
House Bill 1389 by Representative Anulowitz of the 42nd, Wen of the 89th, Bodie the 62nd, Allen of the 40th, Oliver of the 82nd, and others. Bill being titled Act to amend Chapter 5 of Title 34 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to sex discrimination in employment.
Industry and Labor.
House Bill 1390 by Representative Anulowitz of the 42nd, Smith of the 18th, Bodie the 62nd, Evans of the 57th, Tankersley the 160th, and others. Bill being titled an act to amend Chapter 5 of Title 34 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to sex discrimination in employment.
Industry and Labor.
House Bill 1391 by Representative Gunner of the 8th, Lever of the 33rd, Burchett of the 176th, Smith of the 18th, Bodie of the 62nd, and others. The bill be titled an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 12 of Title 17 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to public defenders.
Judiciary Non-Civil.
House Bill 1392 by Representative Gunner of the 8th, Smith of the 18th, Moptahound of the 17th, Fleming of the 121st, Jones of the 47th, and others. Bill being titled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 3, Title 35 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to general provisions regarding the Georgia Bureau of Investigation.
Special Committee on Election Integrity.
House Bill 1393 by Representative Bonner of the 72nd, Washburn of the 141st, Powell of the 32nd, Crow of the 110th, Wiedauer of the 119th. Bill being titled an act to amend Part 2 of Article 3 of Chapter 3, Title 38 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to judicial emergency.
Judiciary.
House Bill 1394 by Representative Byrd of the 20th, Gilligan of the 24th, Carpenter of the 4th, Gamble of the 15th, Scoggins the 14th, and others. Bill being titled an act to amend Chapter 12 of Title 31 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to control of hazardous conditions.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1395 by Representative McLaurin of the 51st, Gullett of the 19th, Moptown of the 17th, and Gravely the 67th. Bill being titled an act to amend Code Section 43-21 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to application for first certificate of title for motor vehicles.
Motor Vehicles.
House Bill 1396 by Representative Yurt of the 152nd, Gullett of the 19th, Gunther of the 8th, Barton of the 5th, Collins the 68th, and others. Bill being titled an act to amend Chapter 32 and Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to municipal courts.
Judiciary.
House Bill 1401 by Representative Bard of the 103rd, Gamble of the 15th, Smith of the 18th, Seabow of the 34th, and Wade of the 9th, and others. Bill being titled an act to amend Chapter 2 and Title 21 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to primaries and elections generally.
Special Committee on Election Integrity.
House Bill 1402 by Representative Barr of the 103rd, Donahue of the 30th, Mathis of the 144th, Smith of the 18th, Wade of the 9th, and others. The bill be titled an act to amend Chapter 2 and Title 21 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to elections and primaries generally.
Special Committee on Election Integrity.
House Bill 1403 by Representative Crow of the 110th, Hatchett of the 150th, Newton of the 123rd, Ridley of the 6th, Mathis of the 144th. Bill being entitled Act to amend Code Section 31647 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to exemptions from Certificate of Need requirements.
Special Committee on Access to Quality Health Care.
House Bill 1404 by Representative Pruitt of the 149th, Hatchett of the 150th, Cooper of the 43rd, Watson of the 172nd, Jaspers of the 11th, and others. Bill being entitled an act to amend Article 7, Chapter 4, Title 49 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to medical assistance generally.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1405 by Representative Roberts of the 52nd, Washburn of the 141st, Crow of the 110th, Dreyer of the 59th, and Parrish of the 142nd. Bill being titled Act to amend Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to local governments.
Governmental Affairs.
House Bill 1406 by Representative Martin of the 49th and Jones of the 47th. Bill being titled Act to amend Code Section 3666-4 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to hearings on proposed zoning decisions.
Governmental Affairs.
House Resolution 818 by Representative Lumsden of the 12th, Dempsey of the 13th, Barton of the 5th, Tarvin of the 2nd, Cameron of the 1st. A resolution honoring the life and memory of Mr. Bobby Lee Cook and dedicating an intersection in his memory.
Transportation.
House Resolution 819 by Representative Powell of the 32nd, a resolution honoring the life and memory of Mr. Fred Pullum and dedicating a bridge in his memory.
Transportation.
Senate Bill 331 by Senator Albers of the 56th, Mullis of the 53rd, Dugan of the 30th, Kirkpatrick of the 32nd, Miller of the 49th, and others. Bill being titled an act to amend Chapter 4, Title 34 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to minimum wage law.
Industry and Labor.
Senate Bill 346 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd, Hatchett of the 50th, Anderson of the 24th, Hickman of the 4th, Walker of the 20th, and others. Bill be titled Act to amend Part 1 of Article 3, Chapter 5 of Title 50 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to general authority, duties, and procedure of the Department of Administrative Services.
Governmental Affairs.
Senate Bill 360 by Senator McNeil of the 3rd, Kennedy of the 18th, Beach of the 21st, Miller of the 49th, Hickman of the 4th, and others. Bill be titled Act to amend Code Section 16.5.102 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to exploitation and intimidation of disabled adults.
Judiciary, non-civil.
Senate Bill 404 by Senator Albers of the 56th, Robertson of the 29th, Mullis of the 53rd, Gooch of the 51st, Beach of the 21st, and others. A bill to be entitled to Act to amend Article 3, Chapter 11 of Title 31 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to emergency medical services personnel.
Public Safety and Homeland Security.
That completes first readers.
Second reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 1371 by Representative Jaspers of the 11th, Watson of the 172nd, Corbett of the 174th, England of the 116th, Campbell of the 171st. A bill relating to general provisions regarding health. House Bill 1372 by Representative Smith of the 133rd, Parsons of the 44th, Burns of the 159th, Frazier of the 126th. A bill relating to fire protection and safety. House Bill 1373 by Representative Bodie of the 62nd, Carpenter of the 4th, Douglas of the 78th. A bill relating to general provisions applicable to counties, municipal corporations, other governmental entities. House Bill 1374 by Representative Stevens of the 164th, a bill to provide for the creation of one or more community improvement districts in the city of Bloomingdale. House Bill 1397 by Representative Williams of the 168th, Stevens of the 164th, a bill to amend an act creating the Board of Education of Liberty County. House Bill 1398 by Representative Belton of the 112th, Lewis Ward of the 109th, Crow of the 110th, Henderson of the 113th, a bill to provide a homestead exemption from City of Covington ad valorem taxes. House Bill 1399 by Representative Holly of the 111th, Knight of the 130th, a bill to provide a homestead exemption from City of Locust Grove ad valorem taxes. House Bill 1400 by Representative Powell of the 32nd, Wilkerson of the 38th, Jackson of the 128th, Tarvin of the 2nd, Carpenter of the 4th, and others, a bill relating to access to medical cannabis. House Resolution 798 by Representative Maynard of the 56th, Gravely of the 67th, Powell of the 32nd, Lim of the 99th, Jackson of the 128th, a resolution creating the Joint Study Committee for Cannabis Waste Disposal and Recycling. Senate Bill 374 by Senator Tillery of the 19th, Hostetler of the 52nd, Burke of the 11th, Kennedy of the 18th, a bill relating to the Georgia Data Analytics Center. Senate Bill 438 by Senator Tippins of the 37th, Duggan of the 30th, Miller of the 49th, Strickland of the 17th, Hickman of the 4th, and others. A bill relating to retention of contractual payments and creation of escrow accounts. Senate Bill 445 by Senator Burns of the 23rd, Payne of the 54th, Hickman of the 4th, Gooch of the 51st, Mullis of the 53rd, and others. A bill relating to civil and criminal penalty for violation of Section 610 of the National Manufactured Housing Construction and Safety Standards Act of 1974. Senate Bill 454 by Senator Kennedy of the 18th, a bill to amend an act establishing the Board of Public Education for Bibb County. Senate Bill 461 by Senator Dixon of the 45th, Strickland of the 17th, Kennedy of the 18th, Duggan of the 30th, Robertson of the 29th, and others. A bill relating to when offenses bailable, procedure, schedule of bails, and appeal bonds. Senate Bill 466 by Senator Jones of the 10th, a bill to amend an act establishing DeKalb County districts from which members of the DeKalb County Board of Education shall be elected. Senate Bill 503 by Senator Kennedy of the 18th, a bill to amend an act to provide for the restructuring of the city of Macon, the city of Payne City, and Bibb County. 3 second readers.
Reports of standing committees, the clerk will read.
Representative Jan Tankersley, the 160th District Chairman of the Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination Local, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination Local has had on consideration the following bills of the House and instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendation. House Bill 1340 do pass. House Bill 1341 do pass. House Bill 1367 do pass. House Bill 1368 do pass. House Bill 1370 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Jan Tankersley, the 160th District Chairman. That completes the reading of the reports of standing committees.
We're going on now to the local calendar. Going on to the local calendar. Third reading and passage of uncontested local bills. If there is no objection, we will vote on the local calendar as a whole with a recorded vote. Hearing none, it is so ordered. The clerk will read the local calendar.
House Bill 1340 by Representative Werkheiser, the 157th City of Glenville. House Bill 1341 by Representative Camp of the 131st Pike County. House Bill 1367 by Representative Tarver of the 2nd Walker County. House Bill 1368 by Representative Dukes of the 54th Miller County. House Bill 1370 by Representative Williams of the 168th Liberty County.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on the local calendar? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bills? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall these bills now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bills on the local calendar will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of the bills on the local calendar. The ayes are 143. The nays are 5. These bills, having received the requisite constitutional authority, are therefore passed. What purpose does Chairman Tankersley rise?
I rise to make a motion, Mr. Speaker.
State your motion.
I move that we immediately transmit the local calendar to the Senate.
Chairman Tankersley has moved that the local bills on the local calendar, which were just passed, be immediately transmitted to the Senate. Is there objection? Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it is so ordered. We're now going on to morning orders. Morning orders. All right, members will please give attention to the members speaking in the well on morning orders. We're going to go for 1 minute each. 1 minute. Chair recognizes Representative Taylor, Chairman Taylor, for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, it is with a heavy heart that I share that Thomasville and South Georgia lost a legend this weekend, Lloyd Eckberg. Lloyd began his Thomasville Chamber of Commerce career in 1963 and served for over 25 years. He was a visionary in community development. Under his leadership, our chamber contributed immensely to the extraordinary growth in technology and industry that we've seen in Thomasville and Thomas County. We enjoyed unprecedented growth from his and the chamber's strategy. He started many new programs, built an industrial park, did our leadership programs. Wonderful, wonderful visionary. Over the years, he served on numerous boards, both statewide and local. And even in his retirement, he continued to serve as a community news article writer and also on a weekly program. He will be missed. Please join me in a moment of prayer. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Ron Stevens for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is also with a heavy heart today that we mourn the loss of one of our great Savannah people, one of our great Georgians in Georgia, and Joel Cash Williams. Joel was born in December 19th in 1942 as a wee 14-pound baby boy in the family kitchen table in Decula, Georgia. He was valedictorian of his class in 1950 in Decula High School, and he went on to graduate magna cum laude from Shorter College. Bachelor of Arts in History. While at Shorter, he was the parliamentarian. chorus. He sang chorus, of course, there, and attended Walter F. George School of Law at Mercer University, where he was the first honor graduate in 1967. Joel left Washington, D.C. after he was serving under the Attorney General, first for the state of Georgia and then on for Richard B. Russell as chairman of the Appropriations Committee. 74 to 85, he acted as chief lobbyist for the federal legislative branches of government for the industry, serving for the sugar industry and the treaties for all the countries there. Ladies and gentlemen, would you take just a moment of silence for as we remember Joel Cash Williams. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Kelly for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, the Cedartown and Polk County community experienced the loss of one of our greatest citizens with the passing of Dr. Mark Wall. For over 35 years, Dr. Wall provided compassionate care to the residents of the Northwest Georgia community, and we'll just have a great loss with him not being with us anymore. I'll say personally, I consider Dr. Wall a great friend. I got to see as he mentored his grandson, Caleb, who he called his partner in crime, and taught him the importance of being active in government while he served as our chairman of our Republican Party for a number of years. Again, we will all miss Dr. Wall, and I would ask for a moment of silence in his honor. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Chairman Hogan, Representative DeLoach, and Representative Saines for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senator Sheila McNeil, myself, Representative Buddy DeLoach, Representative Stephen Saines invite you to the depot tonight for a Coastal Georgia Wild Shrimp and Low Country Boil. It starts at 5:30 to 6:30, cocktail hour, 6:30 to 8 o'clock, the dinner at the depot. So everybody is welcome to have some of Georgia Wild Shrimp and a Low Country Boil. So please come on down. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Carpenter for a morning order.
Thank you, Speaker. Just want to give everybody a heads up. Tomorrow is Georgia Restaurant Day at the state capitol. So hopefully if you're around tomorrow night at 5 p.m., we're going to have the Taste of Georgia, which is probably one of the biggest events we have down here. So if you're in town, we'd love to have you there, 5 p.m. at the Freight Depot. And just keep your mind on your restaurants, guys. Labor shortages and supply shortages have been real rough in 2021 and 22. So be thinking about those guys and eat out as much as you can. Thank you, Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Cantrell for a morning order.
Good morning, colleagues. Today is Tuesday, 2/22/22. It was 8 years ago to the day that I first was asked about running to represent House District 22. But 36 years ago to the day, I made one of the best decisions of my life, and that was to marry Jane Cantrell. We've been married 36 years today, and I was told by Chairman Watson that I would earn a lot of brownie points by making this statement today. So happy anniversary to the love of my life, Jane Cantrell. Please join with me in congratulating Jane for living with me for 36 years.
Chair recognizes Representative Carter for a morning order.
Thank you, Speaker Ralston. Good morning, colleagues. For my moment in Black history, I want to share with you about Mr. Harry T. Moore and his wife, Harriet Sims. They married December 25th, 1926 in Florida. Harry was an educator and his wife was a teacher. He was promoted to principal in a local Titusville school, and she taught well, he taught up until 9th grade, and then the school was closed after 6 months due to some segregation issues. But what I want to bring to your attention is his home was bombed Christmas night. And Christmas was also their anniversary. He died in the hospital, and 9 days later, his wife passed. They are considered the first martyrs in the modern civil rights movement and the first of a couple to be assassinated for civil rights. Thank you for my moment in history. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Representative Bazemore for a morning order.
Good morning, colleagues, and thank you, Speaker Ralston. And I rise for a moment of Black history. The creation of the powerful Black community known as Black Wall Street was intentional. In 1906, O.W. Gurley, a wealthy African American from Arkansas, moved to Tulsa and purchased over 40 acres of land that he made sure was only sold to African Americans. This modern, majestic, sophisticated, and unapologetic Black community boasted of banks, hotels, cafes, closures, movie theaters, and contemporary homes. Tulsa's rapid change in racial demographics made the city ripe for a riot motivated by Black animosity against Black economic progress. Whites of the era equated improvements in wages and working conditions as communist threats. In essence, whites were resentful that Blacks no longer passively accepted second-class citizenship in their own homeland. Don't fret, we will build back better.
That completes morning orders. We're now going on to the rules calendar. We have a rules calendar that was fixed by the Rules Committee last week, and they have added 2 more measures this morning as a supplemental rules calendar for today. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1092.
House Bill 1092 by Representative Cooper, the 43rd, to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 4, Title 17 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to arrests by law enforcement officers generally, so as to revise provisions relating to the arrests of pregnant women. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Health and Human Services, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Chairman Cooper to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning to ladies and gentlemen in the House. Today I bring you House Bill 1092. This bill is about pregnant women and the babies they carry and for the future citizens those babies are going to become. But these are women in a really difficult situation. The bill says that if a woman is fixing to be sentenced to a prison term and she is pregnant, that the judge has the discretion to pause her sentencing, not change it, not make it smaller, just pause when she has to go into the prison system to start serving her term. It allows that the judge can say that the woman can stay out of prison until 6 weeks postpartum. Now, this does not come without certain stipulations. The woman has to check in with the court. They have to get prenatal care. If they have a problem like with drugs, the judge can put an ankle bracelet on them. They actually have one now that somehow or other detects drug use. If the woman violates any of the stipulations by the judge, they are immediately then to start their sentence. This is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. It takes no time off the sentence, like accountability courts can and drug courts can. They can actually earn some time off their sentence. This is not the way this one works. It just delays the time that the woman is going to have to be in our penal system. And I will tell you now that despite how hard they're trying, our penal system for pregnant women is below standard. Women do not see the physicians or care that they need. They do not get the medications that they need and the vitamins, and they are not given an adequate diet. And we still have women that are being shackled when they are pregnant. So this bill will also save the state money, although that is not the purpose for it, because we will not have all the extra cost of having these prison women in our prison system. That's the bill, and if there's any question, if there are no questions, Mr. Speaker, I'll yield the well and ask for a favorable vote from the House members.
You have a couple of questions if you care to yield.
I'll take one or two, Mr. Speaker.
Do you yield for some questions?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Chairman Lynn Smith to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Lady Yield.
I will. Thank
Is it not true that you have brought to us a very difficult situation to try and come to a fair decision?
It is true.
Is it not true also that by doing so, we are not taking care of the mother of the child, but the unborn child as well?
That's exactly right. We are doing that and trying to give that unborn child the best start on life that we possibly can, despite the situation that the mother has found herself in. In our prison system, there is a huge instance of fetal death and premature and infant deaths. It is very high in our Georgia system. So that's one of the things that this would hopefully would help correct, that we would not have those deaths.
Do you further yield?
One more, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative McLaurin to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the chairwoman yield?
Yes, I do.
Madam Chair, I really want to sincerely thank you for bringing this bill. It's such an important measure, and I also want to thank you so much for speaking the truth about what's happening in Department of Corrections facilities for pregnant women, unfortunately, and for so many people. I guess my question for you is, since the design of this bill is sort of to grant a temporary reprieve from some of the conditions inside the Department of Corrections, do you think it would be appropriate for this body to take up a sustained effort, not just to address some of the conditions you're talking about generally, but also specifically with regard to pregnant women, the impunity with which some officers have refused to comply with this body's shackling legislation? Madam Chair.
In my years in the legislature, I have found that it's probably always healthy to look at our institutions and the bureaucracy that we find all across state government.
We appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and to the members, I ask for your favorable vote, and Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
Lady yields the well. We have another member that wished to be heard on the bill. Chair recognizes Representative Schofield to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good evening, colleagues. I rise in support of HB 1090. This bill, and you heard a number of great things or things that it does, but this bill is an avenue for pregnant women to receive the prenatal care throughout their pregnancy, and for that I'm proud, because for over 3 years I've worked with Pamela Wynn, the founder of Restore Her, hearing testimonies and diverse experiences of incarcerated women, current and post-incarceration. I'm happy that this bill is before the body. I proudly and publicly acknowledge the countless hours of work that Pamela Wynn of Restore Her and contributions made by my colleagues, Representative Park Cannon, and Representative David Dreyer in addressing important issues such as the anti-shackling, incarcerated women, and today's piece of legislation for pregnant incarcerated women. Surely teamwork speaks volumes. And finally, to Chairman Cooper, I acknowledge her addressing this issue of incarcerated women and being a leader, taking the lead and honoring her commitment to Pam. And bringing the good bill to the House floor. So I ask that you to support this great work by the work of many for voting yes on this bill. And Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
Lady has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Representative Kennard rise?
Mr. Speaker, is it not a parliamentary inquiry?
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true that it is against the law in Georgia to shackle a pregnant woman in our correctional facility, and therefore the Department of Corrections is out of compliance with our laws?
I think the gentleman is correct. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 1092. The ayes are 161, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1195.
House Bill 1195 by Representative Lumsden of the 12th and others to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 85 and Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia and Tedder relating to interlocal risk management agencies in local government. This bill has been referred to the Committee on Insurance. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Representative Lumsden to present the bill.
Madam Speaker, members of the House, I bring to you House Bill 1195. This is a bill that comes as a request from ACCG and GMA. By definition, they are the only two interlocal agencies in state government. All insurance carriers by code are required to file an annual audit using generally accepted accounting principles with the Insurance Commissioner's Office. ACCG and GMA are not insurance carriers, but they do manage some insurance programs for their members, and because of that, they're required to file annual audits with the Insurance Commissioner's Office as well. ACCG uses and has used statutory accounting for decades. It's very similar to the generally accepted accounting, but is slightly more conservative approach than the generally accepted accounting is. House Bill 1195 adds statutory accounting as an acceptable form of reporting for ACCG and GMA. The Insurance Commissioner's Office fully supports this change. That is the bill, Madam Speaker. I would greatly appreciate your favorable consideration.
You have a question?
I do have a question.
Do you yield?
Yes.
The chair recognizes Representative Carter in the gallery for a question.
Good morning. Does the gentleman yield?
I do.
My question refers to the statutory principles in which you've added in this piece of legislation. Would this only be for the audits as it relates to the insurances, or would this be for audits for the entire organization, and does it trickle down to the municipalities?
It's my understanding that this only applies, if you look at the language of the bill, it only applies to interlocal government agencies. and the only two defined in law as interlocal government agencies are ACCG and GMA. This does not have a trickle-down effect to anyone. It only applies to those two entities, and it simply provides them with the ability to continue doing what they've been doing for decades. There's a little section in the law that requires generally accepted accounting principles. Statutory is very similar to generally accepted accounting, just slightly more conservative. This just provides them with the opportunity to continue to file based on how they are currently filing, and it has the full support of the Insurance Commissioner's Office, whom they have to file the reports with.
Okay, do you further yield for a friendly question?
Yes.
I just want to be really, really clear because the addition that you're adding to the bill stipulates it is for insurance type companies only. And I just want to be clear that as we're voting, that we're only adding that and not removing GAP.
No, we're not removing GAP. It simply adds that caveat only for ACCG and GMA, which in this particular section that we're dealing with in the law only applies to interlocal government agencies, and ACC and GMA are the only two interlocal government agencies defined in law.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. For what purpose? Gentleman has waived. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of the bill. The yeas were 157, the nays were 0. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1148. Chair recognizes Representative Rhodes to present the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, House Bill 1148. CWD, also known as chronic wasting disease, is a major problem amongst our deer herd in certain portions of the United States. There have been some detected in the northwest corner of Alabama, up around Mississippi and Tennessee. All this is a measure by our department to take proactive steps. Alabama, Florida, North Carolina, and Tennessee have done the same thing. These steps just will not allow deer carcasses to be brought in to Georgia from other states. If they are, the meat just has to be deboned. And that's all this legislation does. It's a proactive measure to try to protect our deer herd here in Georgia. I'll be glad to answer any questions, Madam Speaker.
There are no questions.
Thank you. I ask for your favorable vote.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Will this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of the bill. The yeas were 156, the nays were 0. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1086. House Bill 1086.
House Bill 1086 by Representative Dempsey, the 13th, and others to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 31718 of the official code of Georgia and Territory relating to influenza vaccinations for discharged patients age 65 and older. This bill has been referred to the Committee on Health and Human Services. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
The chair recognizes Representative Dempsey to present the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. HB 1086 is a very friendly measure. Not everyone in the room here is 50 years old, but if you're not, you probably have a loved one or a family member who is. And that's what this is focused on. Currently, state law requires hospitals to offer influenza vaccine during influenza season to patients age 65 and older prior to their discharge. The word is offer, not to mandate, not to tell them they must do it, but to offer it. Today, individuals that are age 50 and older have been found to be at increased risk for severe illness and complications from the flu. As we age, our immune systems weaken, and we are more likely to have underlying conditions such as diabetes, asthma, or cardiovascular disease. With that in mind, this legislation simply lowers the existing age from 65 to 50, and that inpatient may still accept or decline the vaccine. Georgia Medicaid covers the vaccine for adults, and the Affordable Care Act mandates that commercial payers must cover the full cost of vaccine, having a recommendation from the CDC. The Department of Public Health has a vaccine assistance program. It is covered through a CDC grant for those who are uninsured or underinsured, and all health departments have access to these vaccines. But this is the time when you're in the hospital, possibly in a weakened condition during the flu season, to say, if you would like to have it while you're here, we can help you do that. If there are any questions, I'll be able to take them. If not, I will ask for your favorable consideration.
The lady has a question. The chair recognizes Representative Clark for a question.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Does the gentlelady yield?
I do.
So I love this legislation. Thank you so much for bringing it. I'm just curious, why stop at age 50 when we also know that children, especially children under the age of 5, are also at really high risk for complications due to flu?
Yeah, I also agree with you, but this is targeted and focused for that capture while in the hospital, particularly of our aging population. And I hate to say that 50 is aging, because it's not really. You know, we've forgotten a little bit too how perilous the flu can be for some people. In recent years, the numbers have trended down, but they're starting to tick back up again right now. And over the last 5 years, the lowest number of those hospitalized were 1,500, but it did go up to about 3,100, and deaths were 151 at one point. So it's something we need to pay attention to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There are no more questions.
Thank you. I yield the will and ask for your favorable support.
The lady has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas were 153, the nays were 3. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1192. House Bill 1192.
House Bill 1192 by Representative Cooper, the 43rd, and others to be entitled an act to amend Article 7, Chapter 4, Title 49 of the Official Code of Georgia and Territory relating to medical assistance generally, so as to require the Department of Community Health to submit a Section 1115 waiver request to the Federal Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. This bill having referred to the Committee on Health and Human Services. The committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Cooper to present the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To my House colleagues, thank you very much for the last vote on 1092, and somehow or other I got another bill at 1192, so they are different. So I bring you House Bill 1192, and it is a direction to the public health or the department to ask Medicare and Medicaid, the Department of Medicaid and Medicare, for a waiver so that we can move Georgia citizens that are HIV positive and 138% below the poverty level onto our Medicaid program. Now let me explain this to you. This is not about gay people. It's not about white people or African American people or pink or purple. HIV and AIDS affects everyone. It does not respect anybody as far as being a possible carrier. And since Representative Cantrell's not coming back anymore, I'm going to give him a little present. I hope he's here. But another group that it affects are our elderly and assisted living who still like to get a little whoopee. Is he here? So, and they don't discriminate sometimes where they get that little bit of whoopee. And so we have actually had runs of HIV positive people showing up in our assisted living facilities and nursing homes. Here's how HIV works, and this is a Department of Public Health bill. If a person is HIV positive, there's sort of two stages. They're HIV positive, and then they move on into full-blown AIDS if they are not treated. When a person is in full-blown AIDS, it costs the state 3 times what it will cost to have an HIV person treated. 3 times. And when a person is in full-blown AIDS, we are required by law to put them on our Medicaid program because they become classified as disabled. So what this will do, when people are treated, when they are HIV positive, that will keep their viral load down and to get it to 0. If a person with HIV has a 0 viral load, which occurs all the time when they are on their medicine, then they cannot infect another person with AIDS. And we begin the process of eradication of this illness. So what this would allow us to do is put about 7,500 people that are infected with HIV onto our Medicaid rolls so that they get the treatment they need to keep their viral load down to 0 so they cannot affect other people, and to keep them from moving into the AIDS category where it will cost the state 3 times the amount to treat them than it did when they were HIV positive. That is how this works. Public health asked for it. Right now, we cover people that are 138% of the poverty level that have no insurance or any other means to pay for their treatment by the Ryan White Act. But there is a limit to that money. And continually, public health is having to come and ask us to put more money into the budget to cover the people who are at that poverty level and not covered by Ryan White. This year, I think there's about $10 million in the supplemental budget, and I think another $10 million are going to be asked because there's not enough money in the Ryan White. In the long run, public health thinks that this will save them about $58 million in cost, while it only cost about $18 million to cover the people. That is how the bill works. And I would ask for your favorable vote. And Madam Speaker, if there are no questions, I'll yield the well.
There are thankfully no questions, and the lady has yielded the well.
Thank you.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of the bill. The yeas were 136, the nays were 14. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1146. 1146.
House Bill 1146 by Representative Lott of the 122nd and others to be titled an act to amend Title 40 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to motor vehicles and traffic so as to provide for vehicles operated by certain law enforcement to be equipped with flashing or revolving lights which are primarily blue in color. This bill having referred to the Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Representative Lott to present the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, I am presenting HB 1146, which is an agency initiative for the Department of Public Safety. This bill allows for Georgia State Patrol vehicles assigned to traffic law enforcement to no longer be required to have a rooftop bar light. For uniformity purposes and with the newer lighting technology available within the vehicle itself, front, rear, and side blue lights, including word identifier bars that read State Patrol, HB 1146 deletes the outdated language on lines 27 to 29 in the bill. The bill was unanimous out of the Public Safety Committee with no person speaking in opposition. There has been one significant question worth addressing concerning safety. Some in Georgia have used the bar light on the roof of the vehicle as their confirmation that the vehicle attempting to stop them is for certain an officer of the law. But with the newer technology, Georgia State Patrol vehicles are equipped with a messaging bar that reads State Patrol. This is significant and definitive label for improved safety. All other marking requirements on the traffic enforcement vehicles remain the same. That is the bill, and I will answer any questions if there are any.
You have a couple questions. The chair recognizes Representative Clark of the 108th District for a question.
Does the gentlelady yield?
I do.
So you mentioned the striking out of line 28 and 29. Does this, by removing those lines, does this now allow the Georgia State Patrol to basically have speed traps where none of the cars have the blue light bars so that vehicles know that they are approaching police officers?
So your question is regarding speed traps. This legislation has nothing to do with that. And all that this line removes is prior to this legislation, or with this, prior to this legislation, they were required to have a blue bar on top. They were given the opportunity to have two vehicles that were slick tops. Now, because of the increased technology, because of the bar light that is within the vehicle that reads State Patrol, they are now able to just use the blue lighting system that they have within the grills, the sides of the vehicles, the rear of the vehicles, and the bar lighting. That is within the vehicle, not on the rooftop.
All right, so does the gentlelady further yield?
I do.
So I would think we can all agree that most people, when they are, when they think they see law enforcement, they're usually using that light bar at the top to know that they're approaching a law enforcement vehicle. And so this would allow for them to not have that, so that vehicles would not know necessarily until they get right up on it, or once it's behind them flashing their indoor lights, that that car is actually a police car. Is that correct?
That's correct. If what the person is using is the bar and that's somehow a judgment of what they're coming up on, then there would be no bar. So you're accurate in that.
Thank you.
Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
Everyone has waived. There are no more questions.
Thank you. I ask for your favorable consideration of this bill. I yield the well.
The lady has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas were 105, the nays were 55. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore
Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1361.
House Bill 1361 by Representative Leverett of the 33rd to be entitled an act to amend Title IX of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to civil practice so as to clarify that the Attorney General is to be served and heard in all defense of all acts of the General Assembly when challenged in any court action. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes the Chief Deputy Whip of the Majority Caucus, Representative Leverett, to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I'm presenting to you today House Bill 1361, which, as you know, has sort of become my passion to take on and revise little-known, nondescript sections of the Georgia Code. This is part of that campaign, but unlike others, this actually has a little personal story for me. My father told me of when this statute was actually adopted when he was at the Attorney General's office. Alfred Evans, who was with the Attorney General's office for many, many years, would get just cussing mad whenever they would get notice of a lawsuit that had been filed some time ago and properly served on an agency or a department but hadn't made its way through the system to the Attorney General's office until long after the answer was due. So this statute currently just requires that the Attorney General be notified. These amendments simply clarify that the Attorney General has the right to be heard in defense of the statute, but it is not mandated. The language at the very end which says as a party, has the right appearing as a party of right as he or she determines is appropriate. So this simply cleans up the statute a little bit. It makes it clear that the Attorney General, he or she has discretion as their resources allow and they deem as appropriate to be heard and appear in the case. So I would ask your favorable consideration of the bill, Mr. Speaker. I will yield for questions.
You do not have any questions.
Thank you. I'll yield the well, Mr. Speaker, and ask your favorable consideration of the bill.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 1361. The ayes are 163, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. What purpose does Representative Leverett rise?
Make a motion.
State your motion.
Mr. Speaker, I would move immediate transmittal of House Bill 1361 to the Senate.
Representative Leverett has moved for immediate transmittal of House Bill 1361 to the other chamber. Is there objection? Is there objection? The chair hears none, and it's on its way over there. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 500.
House Bill 500 by Representative Burchetta, the 176, to be titled an act to amend Code Section 33-125, the official code of Georgia, annotated relating to the Georgia Agribusiness and Rural Job Act, so as to provide for a second round of funding and period for applications. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Ways and Means, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Burchett to present House Bill 500.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, colleagues. I've got a bill here. It's a very simple bill. This is the Garja bill. We've passed this bill out in 2017 and also last session. What this bill does is it gives rural agricultural businesses the opportunity to have another avenue to borrow money. What happens, I'll give you just a for example. I have a small business in my district that was a beneficiary of this program. The program says that you must be turned down by a traditional lender first before you can take advantage of this type of lending. And in my case, in my district, Katie Bag is a long-standing family business that the proprietors were aging out and they had no succession plan. And like many businesses, they had borrowed money and were turned down by a traditional lender. And without this program, this Garja program, Katie Bag would have ceased to exist. But because of this program, they were able to borrow money and continue the business along with capital investors. This is a very simple bill. It's a program that has worked very well for rural Georgia. And I'm asking that you once again go with me and send it over to the Senate, and hopefully the Senate puts it out instead of holding us up. So with that, I'll yield for questions, Mr. Speaker.
You have a couple of questions if you care to yield.
Yes, sir, I'll yield.
Chair recognizes Representative Meeks to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes.
Thank you. Why are we going from a $5,000 to a $25,000 application fee?
We're increasing the fee for these lenders so that they have to pay more into the program. All that money comes back to the state. It's the money that they're investing and getting a return on. We're asking that they pay us that money back. So it's more beneficial for the state.
Does the gentleman further yield?
Sure. Yes, sir.
Just to make sure I'm clear, so that $25,000 is paid by the lender, not by the applicant?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Chair, you yield for another question.
I yield.
Chair recognizes Representative Bennett to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me how this bill will encourage food inequities being eliminated in our rural area of Georgia? How will this bill incentivize the receivers of this money to provide increased food opportunity of fresh fruits and vegetables to people in rural counties who now currently live in food deserts?
Well, I don't know that I can speak exactly to that point, but I can say this. This lending provision only goes to Georgia businesses and their mom and pop businesses. So a business such as a farm would qualify for the GARJA program. So you could they could borrow money from this program to continue their operations of, if they're a fruit and vegetable grower, then they can continue to do that. Or if they're a packer of those vegetables, they can also continue to do that. So they would be able to take advantage of this lending program.
Do you further yield or not?
How many laps you got? Mr. Speaker, this is a bill that we've had many times, and if you have any other questions offline, please come to me, but I'm going to yield the well if you don't mind.
Gentleman has yielded the well.
Thank you.
We have another speaker that wished to be heard. Chair recognizes Representative Dukes to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the members of this august body, I rise in full support of this legislation. It provides people in rural Georgia, particularly those that are engaged in the agricultural industry, another opportunity to obtain financing such that they can be sustainable. As you know, in this state, small and mid-sized family farmers and people that are engaged in this industry throughout rural Georgia are having to overcome obstacles that are vastly different from those that we grew up with. This bill, this legislation, becomes another tool in the toolkit, the toolbox, that will help us to be able to sustain businesses and business opportunities from the part of the state that I represent. And as a result, I come here in full support of this legislation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the gentleman from Doherty yields the well.
Gentleman yields the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Representative Wade rise?
Pursuant to Rule 133, may I be excused from this vote?
Gentleman has that right. Journal will so reflect. What purpose does Representative Wilson rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true that there's no provision in this bill to even evaluate the effectiveness of this tax credit?
I think you should have taken that up with the author of the bill prior to him getting in the well. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines On the passage of House Bill 500, the ayes are 153. The nays are 11. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. House Bill 961 will be postponed until the next legislative day. What purpose does Chairman Collins rise?
To make a motion.
State your motion.
I'd like to ask that Senate Bill 84 be moved from the Public Safety Homeland Security Committee to the Retirement Committee. Both chairmen agree.
Clerk will read the caption.
Senate Bill 84 by Senator Alvarez the 56th, Harper the 7th, and Robertson the 29th to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 17 of Title 47 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to Peace Officers Annuity and Benefit Fund.
On the motion of Chairman Collins that Senate Bill 84 be recommitted from the Public Safety and Homeland Security Committee to the Retirement Committee, is there objection? Is there objection? The chair hears none, and it is so ordered. The chair recognizes Representative Earhart for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to agree to the Senate substitute to HB 826.
Representative Earhart moves that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 826. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 826 to be entitled an act to incorporate the city of Lost Mountain.
Chair recognizes Representative Earhart to explain the Senate substitute.
Thank you, folks. You recall we passed HB 826 out of this body last week. Small change was made in the Senate. Essentially what it does is it takes the mayor from being one of a 6-member city council and creates that position separately so that we now have a six-member city council structure with a separate mayor who shall be elected by all the eligible voters of the city. I ask for your favorable consideration, and Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
The lady has yielded the well. On the lady's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 826, all those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Representative Anulowicz rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, thank you. Is it not true that one of the other changes addressed by the Senate, and actually I would say perhaps tweaked by the Senate, addresses the issue that myself and many of my colleagues tried to point out when this bill was in the House, that the current version of the bill now does require clearly that all members must live within their city council districts?
If the lady so states. What purpose does Chairman Setzler rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
State your inquiry.
I was going to state what the lady so articulately said, that many of the questions raised here earlier have been addressed by the Senate, and I would ask for overwhelming bipartisan support of this bill.
Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 826, or on the lady's motion, that the House agree to the Senate substitute, House Bill 826. The ayes are 98, the nays are 64, and this House has agreed to the Senate substitute. What purpose does Representative Earhart rise?
I waive.
She waives. Clerk will read the caption to a group of privileged resolutions.
Honoring the life and memory of Lieutenant Commander David Calvin Belton, Sr., United States Navy. Honoring the life and memory of Dr. Tandy Walter Treadwell, Jr. Honoring the life and memory of Mary Alice Day. Honoring the life and memory of Manning Thomas Tom Jeter. Commending the Punchline Comedy Club on its 40th anniversary, recognizing and commending Tom M. Risco, commending and congratulating Ludell Williams, recognizing and commending Reverend Dr. Clyde Hill, recognizing and commending Cherie Hobson Matthews on her outstanding public service as Henry County's county manager, commending Reverend Eric George Vickers Sr., recognizing and commending the Georgia State University Panther Band, recognizing and commending Thomas Harrison, congratulating and commending Jerry Conter, congratulating and commending Carolyn Helene Cook for receiving the 2022 Yellow Rose Nikki T. Randall Service Leader Award, recognizing and commending Coach Ray Land. And for other purposes, that completes the reading of the privilege resolutions.
Is there any objection to adopting the privilege resolutions? The chair hears none and the resolutions are adopted. Okay, we're going on now to announcements. If you have signed up for an announcement, make your way to the front of the chamber. Chair recognizes Chairman Dickey for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, we have an Agriculture and Consumer Affairs Committee meeting in the morning at 8 o'clock, 406 CLOB. We have several bills. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Mathiak for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow's State Planning and Community Affairs is canceled. We will postpone. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Becky Evans for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Women's Legislative Caucus will meet upon adjournment. You can pick up your lunch in room 216 CAP, and then we'll meet virtually. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Watson for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Appropriations Subcommittee of General Government will meet at 9 tomorrow morning in room 415 CLOB. And also we've got Rural Caucus tomorrow at 12 o'clock, Department of Ag. Look forward to seeing everybody there. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Gullett for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 3 quick announcements. One is for Governmental Affairs today at 1 o'clock. It's the Redistricting and Elections Special Subcommittee, 341 Capitol. Governmental Affairs State and Local Government Subcommittee, 130, 341 Capitol. And the EV Charging Subcommittee of EUT is 403 today at 3 o'clock. Thank you so much.
Chair recognizes Chairman Carpenter for an announcement.
Creative Arts and Entertainment will be meeting in 406 at 1 o'clock today, 406, 1 o'clock.
We have some local bills that the chair proposes to handle as the others we've been handling. I would ask unanimous consent that the rules of the House be temporarily suspended to allow these bills to be read for the first time and assigned to committee. They will all be assigned to intergovernmental coordination. Is there any objection? Is there any objection? The chair hears none, and they will all be assigned to intergovernmental coordination. We have one more announcement. The chair recognizes Chairman Rich for an announcement.
The Majority Caucus will be meeting in room 403 upon adjournment, and lunch will be served.
That completes our announcements. Chair recognizes the Majority Leader of the House for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I move that this House adjourn until 10 a.m. Thursday, February the 24th, 2022.
The majority leader has moved that this House stand adjourned until Thursday, February 24 at 10 a.m. All those in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it. This House will be adjourned until Thursday at 10 a.m. Thank you very much. Have yourself a